Hey everyone, today we're going to check out the Behringer 297, which is a portamento and voltage or CV mixing module. It's a little bit complex for us newbies. I'm going to see if I can try and make it a little bit more understandable for you. If you are actually a educated Eurorack person, tread lightly with us guys, we're noobs here. Let's go check it out. So this is the module here that we're going to be checking out, the Behringer 297. This module is a dual purpose module. And technically you could probably even say more than dual purpose. Probably the most obvious here is that the use of this is the portamento side of things. But also it's got two of those, but also it's got two CV mixers or voltage mixers if you want to call it. So a lot of people will probably say to me, I don't really understand this module because they're fairly new to Eurorack, but those who are well rehearsed with Eurorack and control voltage would go, yeah, you got this, we got this. This video is more for those who just really want to understand at a basic level what you can do with this module and how to get the best out of it and why you should get it. It's a bit of knowledge about how this module works. So across the top, you got mixer 1. Down the bottom, you've got mixer 2. They're identical. And then you've got portamento 1 and portamento 2, and these two are identical. So you basically got a copy of both circuits, top and bottom. Portamento has signal in, signal out, so that's your control voltage signals in. And you can also control voltage the time with this here. Across the mixer, you've got 2 signals in. You've actually got 4 signals in. If you connect something to this, it will disconnect the constant 10 volt. Or if you connect something to 4, it'll disconnect the constant minus 10 volts. So they'll all act like a normal. And these are your attenuators for each of these inputs. There's also another constant 10 volt output on the side that doesn't have an input. And you can actually follow these arrows and it will tell you how it works. Now, there's two outputs on inverse and non-inverse out. This can be a little bit hard to get your head around when you're new to control voltages and things like that. But I guess an oscilloscope will help you have a look at that sort of stuff. Okay, so for the first thing, let's look at the obvious, which is the portamento. Now, portamento, some people call it glide, some people call it glissando, all those sort of different similar names. But basically what it does is it glides between one note and another. So instead of it going straight to the note, to another note, and then to another note, it glides in between, so it has kind of like a slew effect. And in fact, that's actually what the second benefit of this portamento thing is. It's actually a slew circuit, and we'll get to that in a sec. We're going to look at the portamento first. So to do that, we're going to use this all-in-one synth module, which has got an oscillator, a filter, and an amp. At the moment, I've just got the MS-101 controlling it. Just waiting for that to catch up. Yeah, so here it is there. And I've just got pitch and CV for pitch and gate. So the pitch is coming in and the gate is coming in here. So it just sounds like that. What we need to do now is we need to circumvent this pitch. So instead of putting it into the oscillator, we're going to put it into the portamento. And then we're going to come out of the portamento and that's going to go into the oscillator. So now, and that's at the maximum time, and then you can do half. And then you can do nothing, of course. So that's portamento at the very, very basic level. So you might think to yourself, yeah, whoopie-doo-dah, there's nothing really special about that. Well, obviously, it's nice to have that in an analog synth because we're all used to that with digital synths. So that's how you do it. But I think probably the more useful element of a portamento circuit is to actually use it as a slew, which means basically you can actually round off other waveforms. And a good example of that is probably like a square wave. And we can do that by mucking around with a LFO. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the pitch back to here. And we'll still use the keyboard as a gate control. But instead of using it to control the gate directly into the VCF, what we're going to do is we're going to use that to control the trigger of the LFO, and then the trigger of the LFO is then going to go into the slew. So the LFO itself is going to go into the slew. Now we're going to choose a square wave on the LFO, and we want to make that kind of reasonably quick so we can hear it. Now, before we try this out, this is going to be our gate. So that's going to come into here. And you can hear that's just an on and off sort of gate. But if I muck around with this, see how I'm actually changing the waveform? Now what you're probably finding here is that this is all happening really, really high up into this Portamento circuit. And you're probably thinking to yourself, there's not much play in this. I need to calm this down a bit. What about if we use our plus 10 volt out into here? So that's overloading that voltage there. So you're getting different effects on that square wave. Okay, so the next part of it is we're going to talk a little bit more about the slewing and all that sort of stuff in a sec. But what I thought we'd do now is might be a good opportunity to actually test to see if these are actually truly what they're saying they are. Like, is this truly 10 volts? Is this truly minus 10 volts? So we are going to connect up the voltage meter. If we use these two attenuators here, they are constant plus 10 and minus 10. That's coming out. So if we just chuck anything on that and then I just increase the voltage on that, we should be able to get a plus 10 and a minus 10. And you can see it's pretty close. That's all the way, and we're getting minus 9.79, so it's not quite 10. And you can see with the attenuator, it's bringing it down to almost 0. Let's try it on the plus 10. So we should see the 10 volt. That's nice, beautiful. Okay. And on this constant 10 volt out, let's try that one. All the way up. Yep, pretty good there. Okay. I can hear you guys screaming, why don't you try the one below? Make sure it's the same. Okay. So we're doing the plus 10. Whoops. Yep, pretty close. And then the minus 10. Almost identical to the other one. And then we'll do the constant 10. It's a bit less. We'll just compare it to the other one. So that's 9.8, and that one is, yeah, so slightly uncalibrated, those readings. But anyway, interesting result. I do want to have a look at how this slew looks like on an oscilloscope. So let's go off and do that now. Okay, I've got the sample and hold going through the Portamento circuit, hopefully with a bit of trickery. We're going to adjust, so you can see it's a fairly sort of standard looking sample and hold looking thing, right? We're going to adjust the time parameter here, and we're going to do it, we're going to adjust it to about, it doesn't really start to show until about here. Now I'm just going to quickly go across to this other view so you'll see it. It doesn't really sort of start to show until we get to about Here we go. So you can see now it's starting to ramp. Instead of going straight up and down, it's ramping. So you can see it's quite high before it actually starts to make a change there. I'm going to do all the way to the top. And it's making like triangular shapes, almost sine shapes. I'll just go back. So you can see it's right up the top. You can't move it any further up there. All right. So that is interesting. So let's do the same with an LFO. Okay, it's a standard square wave, nothing exciting. We're going to move the time up to half. A little bit of a ramp, but virtually the same. And 3/4. And you can see it's ramping a lot more. So this is what Slew does. And then you can go even more. So there's a really, really fine adjustment. I'm just going to go back to so you can see how fine that adjustment is here. So it's really just from about, so it's pretty much square at 5, I would say. And then all the way up to the top, it almost completely disappears. That square wave almost disappears completely. So let's just really, really finely adjust that. I'm just pushing that down slightly. There we go. You can see there, and you can see there's really only like between those little pointers on here, one. So if you'd say at 9, between 9 and 10 is where you're getting most of that change there. So there you go. So there's how you can use that as a slew. The only thing I don't really like about that is, I don't know, you can't really control that control voltage much. So I don't know whether it's because, I don't know. Anyway, if I put that all the way down to the bottom, I'm going to use an attenuator to try and see if I can control this. And I'll use the plus 10 volt constant, which is right next to it. So you guys can see. I just plug in the plus 10 volt straight into the CV in. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to adjust when the plus 10 volt is at 0 and the time is at 0, it looks like this, as you'd expect. What we're going to do now is I'm going to make the attenuator go to plus 10 volts. And you can see straight away that it already is starting to slew. And the cool thing about that is that means now I can then adjust the time and I'm getting a lot more play on that slew. So that slew is now really, really, really a lot more usable. It's a lot more freer. Now I'll go back. So you saw it on the oscilloscope. I'll just go back to here. And I'm moving it all the way down to all the way to about, let's say 8, okay? So you can see, I'll go all the way to 8. You can see that's what the curve looks like. And then I'll move it all the way back down slowly so you can see it change. So it's a lot finer, that adjustment, if you do it that way. So, I don't know. I kind of feel that this Portamento needs a lot finer adjustment on it. And I'm just wondering if that actually affects a pitch note coming in. So, in order for me to do that, I'm going to have to use a stacker. But we can do that. We've got a stacker here. Because I still want to be able to see it on the oscilloscope, and I want to use a pitch note coming in instead of the one that's going into the circuit here. So we take the LFO out and we're going to use a pitch note. Now Still, to me, it feels like there's not enough play in that. It's only between 5 and 10 are we really getting that on there. I was going to show you the inverse side of things. So there's our triangle wave coming out of the LFO without any slew or anything. So let's slew that triangle wave. So that's about 6. It's about 9. So really, that just needs, and a bit of attenuation, I feel that needs a lot more. Let's add that voltage in. So it's really, all it's doing is just kind of dampening that triangle wave. What about with a sine wave? What's it doing to a sine wave? So there's our nice noisy sine. Wow, it's a noisy one, that one, isn't it? Let's take our 10 volts. Ah, there you go. So the noise was coming from the 10 volts. All right, so all right, that is quite interesting, that sine wave. Just out of curiosity, what is that sine wave like if we just go directly into the... Very interesting. So that's the oscilloscope directly into that LFO. If I go signal out and I go LFO into signal in, okay, it's calmed down. All right. What does our slew do to it? Not a great deal, only just really up high. Yeah. What about a sawtooth wave? Let's just get that to vertical. Just put that down a bit. There's our sawtooth wave. Let's slew the sawtooth wave. Yeah. Okay, and what about an envelope? So let's, I don't know if I've got enough cable here to do this. So there's our envelope there. Right. So envelope's just below, going into here, and then that's going to the oscilloscope. Now, I'm going to set a standard, kind of a standard-ish looking envelope. And no decay, and a bit of release, and a lot more amplitude on that sustain. Okay, cool. All right, let's slew that. In fact, to trigger our envelope, let's use a square wave from the LFO. All right, so our envelope is being triggered by the square wave. And let's reduce that release and speed up. I think that's good. Okay, so there's our envelope. In fact, let's add a little bit of attack. Okay, so there's a nice looking envelope. What happens if we slew it? Yeah, it just kind of really just muddies it up, doesn't it? Look at that. I'll just go back to the other view. It's really just not a lot of play. It's only just kind of between maybe 8 and 10 that you're getting that. So you can mangle your envelopes with this as well. Interesting. okay, what else can we look at while we're here? I think we should look at a inverse and output. And what else I want to do while I'm at it is I want to bring in LFO as a second signal in, and we'll use the yellow cable for the envelope. Okay, so right now we are outputting just the envelope, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in, using this attenuator here, the LFO. Now the LFO is a square wave, so this will be interesting to see what happens. See if you can guess. So that's the two combined. So this is the kind of cool stuff you can do. And then I can actually use these attenuators to dial back. So my square wave looks like that. And if I turn that off, my envelope looks like that. And if we bring them together, looks like something that you see at the hospital. Heartbeats. Wow. Wow, look at those interesting waveforms. And you're probably thinking to yourself, what does that sound like? Does that sound cool? Well, I don't know. But we can definitely find out. So what we want to do first is we want to get some pitch in to here. And we want to get some gate in. Here we go. So we're going to get the second output because it is a mixer. And we're going to run that into the gate in. All right, we need to turn the filter down. It's definitely doing it. It's definitely doing what we're seeing on the screen. There's that square wave. And there's the envelope kicking in. Oh, let's put a bit of release on it. All right, now let's speed that up. Now, if we don't like it to be so squarey, we can back the square off a bit. Back the release off a bit. All right, let's put an attack on that envelope. Oh, that looks awesome. So now I've got a square wave following the contour of an envelope. And it's kind of quite random. That's really, really cool. So that is the voltage mixer. For those who are really into sort of the music side of things, this is probably a little bit sort of more geeky and electronic than you probably want to get yourself into. But I always find oscilloscopes are very handy if you want to visualize what's happening with waveforms. Let me know in the comments below if this was useful for you and if you found the information helpful at all. The next module we're probably going to do is the one that you can see next to it, the 172. I think that one's going to be a bit more audio based, so because it's got a lot of audio based cool things in it. Anyway, that's it for today. I'll catch you next time.